He was truly the mother's child. For any problem he would face, he would seek her advice. In everything he did, he remembered the mother. He dedicated his entire life in her service. An inspiration for generations to come, an iconic engineer, a valiant leader, a spiritual guide, a guardian to many, and a true yogi, Shri Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya, lovingly known as Daddy. The mother referred to him as her lion. 31st August is his birth anniversary. Even after so many years, his presence is still felt. He is an ideal. Difficulties and obstacles never daunted his spirit when he undertook any work. He relied on the mother's help and his self-confidence. The mother once gave Pradyot a card which carried on one side a line from Savitri. Her single will opposed the cosmic rule, and on the other, written in her own hand, Pradyot, is it this you wanted? In this context, one may recall a message of the mother. Truth is a difficult and strenuous conquest. One must be a real warrior to make this conquest. A warrior who fears nothing, neither enemies nor death. For with or against everybody, with or without a body, the struggle continues and will end by victory. Pradyot fulfilled that responsibility squarely. And today, we look back at the dynamic and holy life of this exceptional human being. Shri Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya, or Pradyot Da, as he was known at Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry, was born on 31st August 1905 in Chittagong, East Bengal, now Bangladesh. He was the fourth son of a Bengali Brahmin family. His father was a kind-hearted man and a worshipper of Kali, a trait that silently got into him and became more relevant in his later life. From his very childhood, he had to pass through an austere upbringing from his father. Pradyot often frequented the Chotteshwari Mandir as a young boy. After reading Ramakrishna Kathamrito at an early age, he said that the title of the book was literally true, as he would feel drops of nectar falling inside his heart whenever he read the Kathamrito. In 1915, Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya got admitted to the government school of Chittagong, where destiny brought him closer to a classmate, Rwitobroto, or as he was lovingly called, Nirod or Nirodda later. A singular friendship formed between Pradyot and Rwitobroto and lasted for more than 70 years. Both of them became friends without any idea or knowledge about their later lives in Pondicherry, the cave of Sri Aurobindo's tapasya. After schooling, both Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya and Rwitobroto were set to go to England. Pradyot for his engineering from Glasgow University and Rwitobroto for medicine. The transition was not easy, and both had to face a lot of resistance from their family members. Dilip Kumar Roy paid a visit to Edinburgh and was Rwitobroto's guest. They had made his acquaintance in Paris. Pradyot arrived at their call, and all three of them went round visiting historical sites. Dilip Da's magnetic personality, lovely voice, and jovial temperament charmed them and turned them into his fervent admirers. It was then that they heard from him about Sri Aurobindo. The seed of sadhana was perhaps sown around this time by the divine will. After finishing his engineering studies from Glasgow University, Pradyot returned to India and started a job with Tata Steel Jamshedpur with a monthly salary of ₹200. He gradually rose to great prominence in his professional life due to his sincerity, ethics, and outstanding technical and problem-solving abilities. He became the chief engineer at TISCO. His friend Rwitobroto, after finishing his medical studies, had settled at the Sri Aurobindo Ashram after practicing medicine for barely 3 months. he tried to convince Pradyot to come to Pondicherry and also make a monthly offering. Pradyot made his contribution but did not show any further interest. However, later, when he did visit the ashram and had the darshan of Sri Aurobindo, he literally froze and his body became still. In fact, Sri Aurobindo had to make a sign to make him move. His visits to the Sri Aurobindo ashram became more frequent thereafter. Meanwhile, Pradyot had got married to a Bengali Christian lady named Rani, whom he had known in England. She was an educationist of considerable repute and standing and was professionally senior to him. Once, Pradyot went to Varanasi on a family trip. He was not keen on going, but did not want to displease his father. He disliked rituals and sat outside the temple by the statue of Shiva's bull Nandi, reading a newspaper. A woman appeared in front of him after bathing in the holy waters of the Ganga, wearing a white sari with red border, holding a komondul. She requested him to escort her to the temple. Initially, he ignored her request and asked her to request someone else. The lady persisted. Seeing this, and being the thorough gentleman he was, Pradyot assisted her and went inside the temple. He then looked around and there was no one else. The woman had disappeared. He understood that he was crazed with the vision of Mother Annapurna. Years later, he narrated this incident to the mother and she smiled. Pradyot subsequently moved to Calcutta from Jamshedpur. Dr. Bidhan Chandra Roy, who was the Chief Minister of West Bengal at that time, recommended his name for the position of Chief Engineer of the West Bengal Electricity Development Directorate in 1948. Later, he also proposed Pradyot's name for the position of the Chief Electrical Engineer at Damodar Valley Corporation. As a matter of fact, the Bokaro Thermal Power Station was one such project which received Pradyot's Midas touch. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru came to inaugurate the plant on 21st February 1953. Ordinarily seen, the selection of the date was by sheer accident. The date marked the mother's 75th birthday. What a divine coincidence! This was the time when Pradyot was in constant touch with the mother for guidance on professional matters. The Kuljian Corporation of India, later known as Development Consultants, was entrusted with consultancy services for Bokaro Thermal Power Station. As Chief Electrical Engineer of the DVC, Pradyot met Sri Shadham Dutt. Though it was a merely formal relationship, it evolved into a deeply personal bond as between father and son. He expressed further interest in the organization when it undertook consulting activities for the Bandel Thermal Power Station. The ashram chapter started for Pradyot around 1954 and 55 when he received summons from the mother to join the ashram. He quit his job and did so leaving everything behind: friends, colleagues, rank and position. In Pondicherry, Pradyot lived at Council House selected by the mother for him. Later, he was nominated by the mother to become trustee of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry. Meanwhile, Dr. Bidhan Chandra Roy had a hard time defending himself in the Legislative Assembly as the nation missed Pradyot sorely at a critical juncture of developing state-of-the-art technical infrastructure. Several engineering organizations he had worked with collectively wrote to the mother explaining the situation. Mother then asked him to visit Calcutta once a month to offer technical advice to the Bengal and Bihar State Electricity Boards, Durgapur Projects, Paharpur Cooling Tower and Development Consultants. In 1971, on the eve of Sri Aurobindo's birth centenary, Mother felt that India and Indians needed to know Sri Aurobindo better so that the resurgence of the nation could happen. Towards that end, she set up Sri Aurobindo's action with Pradyot as chairman. Between 1971 and 1975, Pradyot, with Srimati Joya Mitter by his side, visited numerous villages of West Bengal to spread the message of Sri Aurobindo. Joyadi would carry a record player to play Pankaj Mollik's rendition of Bhubaneshwaro He Mochona Koro Bhoy, urging people to act and live without fear, trusting and taking refuge in Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. On Pradyot's birthday in 1966, the mother said to Champaklal, her attendant and formerly of Sri Aurobindo, "Tomorrow is Pradyot's birthday. Prepare a card for him with that picture of me which signifies realization. On the left side of the picture, near my chest, fix the head of a lion." Pradyot remembered gratefully till his last day that the mother had kept him close to her heart. A year later, on his birthday in 1967, the mother presented him a card with the picture of a lion surrounded by other animals with a fire in the center, and the card said, "A symbolic image of your action." Pradyot asked the mother for some boons, and the mother granted those in writing, including the assurance of her constant presence and the promise that all those who were around him would turn to her. On 22nd November 1962, Ranidhi left the physical world. Pradyot was in Calcutta. A telegram was sent to him. Pradyot arrived in Pondicherry and eventually went to see the mother. He said to her, "Mother, I leave her with you," to which she replied, "Not with me. She is in me. You are in me. The whole universe is in me." Thorough domain knowledge, an acute and calm intellect, favored by flashes of intuition, were the powers which Pradyot commanded. In the ashram, he was the man sought out when any serious decision had to be taken. Pradyot was never in the habit of getting into the limelight. All work was the mother's, to be done scrupulously, only for her, without fear or favor. He was so self-effacing that it is difficult to chronicle all his achievements. Pradyot was a true instrument of the mother. Despite holding many feathers, he was a man of few words. In 1967, the mother wrote to Pradyot, "Pradyot, my dear child, I need you as my instrument, and you will remain so. Be very quiet. Endure with courage. I am with you in love and victory." The mother formally took over Lakshmi's house in Kolkata in 1968. She wrote, "We shall call it Lakshmi's house, and it will be the home of grace." Arunindranath Tagore took charge as mother's caretaker. Between 1968 and 1974, Shakti Center, Arun Nursery School, and a sales counter for Sri Aurobindo Ashram products and a public library were established. Arun Tagore passed away in 1975. On his deathbed, he founded Sri Aurobindo Institute of Culture to perpetuate the work of Lakshmi's house, with Pradyot as its chairman. When he brought Sri Aurobindo's relics to Lakshmi's house in 1977, he mentioned that given that the living God was now installed in the mother's abode, everyone should take their refuge in him. Palpably, the atmosphere changed overnight to synchronize with the divine grace who had arrived.
Joyadi told us about Daddy, our beloved Daddy. She advised us to come to airport and meet him personally. Accordingly, myself, my wife, Bithi, and my son, Indranil, we went to meet Daddy at airport. When Daddy arrived from Chennai, what I saw, I was in total awe. That was my first impression. What happened next was totally unexpected. It was a new birth for me. Joyadi introduced me to Daddy as, "Daddy, this is Amal, our dear young brother." One of my most prized possession is a book given to me by Daddy. It is called Essays on Gita by Shri Aurobindo. That book was given to Pradyot by Shri Aurobindo in his own handwriting with his blessings, and he passed it on to me for my keepsake. How fortunate I am. Daddy was a teacher, our teacher who led to our Guru, Shri Aurobindo and the mother. He never ever quoted from mother said this, Shri Aurobindo said this, you do this, you do that. What we have learned from him is how to open ourselves to the mother. The number one point which he emphasizes is love the mother, trust the divine, leave everything to the divine, and your life will change beyond your imagination. And it is true.
I used to call him Kaka or Uncle. My relation with him is something special. He was my guide in my practical life, in my social life, in all forms of my activities. Whenever I was in any problem, I sought his blessing and advice. Starting with the birth of my son, he was born sick. So naturally, by information to Daddy, and he said, take him to your home and I am coming. He just touched, my son said, and everything becomes normal instantaneously. It was a miracle happening that day. Now, as far as my relation with Daddy is concerned, he used to guide me in all aspects of my life. I was posted in Iraq as the head of a team of engineers from development consultants. There, one of our engineers met with an accident. Without me asking anything, he advised me, send him back. That is the sort of a person he was. As far me is concerned, he was my spiritual guide, you may say, or mental guide, whatever. Without any advice, he used to send me advice. In a great calamities in our family, my eldest brother suddenly passed away. That time I was in Pondicherry and I was sitting at his feet. Suddenly he said, oh, don't go back to Kolkata. I was quite surprised. And Shikha asked, why are you asking us to go back? You go back, I am also coming. So I traveled by train and he came by plane and he asked Bodhi, means Jayadi, Orun, to see me first and go to his brother's house. I couldn't follow anything. But reaching this house, our whole time, he broke the news to me that my eldest brother has passed away suddenly. Anyway, so as per his advice, I went to Lucky House where he was staying. And he asked me, don't get disturbed, don't get upset, take all the children to your house with you. Of course, he told me they take you home and this problem will be solved within next 10 years. And so it did. He was that time one of the best known electrical engineers in Eastern India. He was advisor to DVC, he was advisor to Tatas, he was advisor to Assam Electricity Board, he was advisor to West Bengal Electricity Board, he was advisor to Bihar State Electricity Board. And in that connection, he used to visit Calcutta almost every month. It was quite surprising that a whole lot of engineers in the field, they used to flock around him for advice and guidance. Daddy also started living in Lakshmi's house whenever he used to come to Calcutta. And we had a very nice gathering every evening. Whenever he came, all of us used to flock around him, not for any material benefit, but his pleasing personality, his advice, and of course, his solace and peaceful healing whenever any of us were in a problem.
The parents of children studying in Orun Nursery School did not want to take their children out. They requested for a high school to be established. A panel of names was sent to the ashram. At Pradyot's behest, the name, the Future Foundation School, was approved by the ashram, and thus began the journey of one of the premier schools of Kolkata and India.
Every child loves to worship somebody. Hero worship is something that children are known for. For many, the icon could be a great cricketer, for instance, sometimes a movie star, perhaps a freedom fighter. For me, in my childhood, that icon was somebody closer home, at least somebody more accessible to me, and that was Shri Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya. I met him when I was all of 7 to 8 years of age, a very impressionable age for a child. And my first memory was going with my mother to visit him in the inspection bungalow at Barauni Thermal Power Station, Shri Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya, whom I learned to call Dadu. My mother lost her father in 1963, and then in Shri Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya, she discovered a father figure anew. It started with a word everybody called him by, an epithet, Daddy. Over a period of time, when she would write to him, I noticed very subtly, Daddy changed to Baba. With my father, he was the one and only mentor he knew. And anything he said would be my father's bidding. So much so that when I was in class 8 in school, he became my guardian and my father took off his name from the school's register. I remember traveling with him to Pondicherry. He would meet the mother every Tuesday, accompanying him on those visits to the mother in her chamber on the second floor in the building in Sri Aurobindo Ashram. It was very interesting. We would spend a couple of minutes, but first he would walk in. Champaklalji would call out Pradyot and he was there. And then I saw this 90-year-old lady with hardly any teeth at that point in time, almost laughing, smiling from one ear to the other, and her hands spread out like this. And I noticed something very interesting. He too put out his hands, and with both his hands, he clasped her two hands. It was a sight to behold. The two smiling at each other. I've been to the mother 7 times, and those 7 times, 6 times I watched this exchange. It was simply wonderful. He was made a trustee in the late 60s. When a vacancy had arisen in the trust board and a set of names were shortlisted and given to the mother, mother scanned it and said, but the person I want, his name is not there. And everyone asked her who, and she mentioned Dadu's name. It is thanks to him that Lakshmi's house is what it is today. When there was a court case about the property in Lakshmi's house, he said, till there is 1 drop of blood left in my body, this property will continue to be the mother's. And he fought for it tooth and nail. I've seen how he fought for Sri Aurobindo Ashram and its identity during the time of the emergency. I have seen how he campaigned for the autonomy of Auroville. I have seen how every drop of his blood he would like to pledge to the mother's service. He is the mother's creative genius. I remember spending evenings with him on his terrace in Pondicherry, the terrace looking out on the Bay of Bengal. On starry nights, he recounted and he said, I told the mother, sometimes I feel this enormous force in me, which tells me that I could take all these stars in my 2 palms and crush them. You know, mother, why I feel like that? Because I am your servant. We have learned from him how it is to live for the mother, to serve the mother, and to exist for the mother. The one thing Dadu taught me physically was cleanliness. He taught me how to clean a toilet. He taught me how not to let even a small crushed ball of paper be somewhere in the garden. If you saw it, you picked it up. You didn't ask who had left it there. And the other thing he taught me was to believe in the mother, at least initially, to trust the fact that people referred to her as divine. And then later on, he had told me he would come to experience it yourself. And that is exactly what happened. And he taught me the meaning of life. Till date, I have no regrets. I have led a very fulfilling life. But that is all thanks to him. Because he taught me that the only true purpose of life would be to know the mother as divine and to serve her with all the energy, love, commitment at my disposal. I know I have not lived up to what he would have wanted. But at least I've had the happiness of being able to serve her, of being able to raise her flag on her birthday and that of Sri Aurobindo's. That is for me the biggest gift I could have ever received.
Suddenly one morning when I was getting ready to go for the office, Rotinda came running to me, "Oru, we have lost our dad." That is something that the umbrella over our head was removed suddenly.
Before he left his body in 1984, he realized that who he was. He asked his favorite daughter who is to look after her, Gargi, bring the tape recorder. And he started chanting from Shankaracharya Nirvak Shatakam, Shivaham, Shivaham, Shivaham. And after a few days, he left his body.
শিবোহম গীতায় শ্রীকৃষ্ণ অর্জুনকে দেখিয়েছেন অর্জুন সমবেত যোগীবৃন্দ চরাচর পৃথিবী সমস্ত ব্রহ্মাণ্ড শ্রীকৃষ্ণের ভিতরে মাও আমাকে বলেছেন আমরা সকলে পৃথিবী ব্রহ্মাণ্ড সব মায়ের ভিতরে।
One Tuesday morning, when Dadu accosted the mother in her room, she said, "Last night I saw you in a dream. I saw you building from country to country with enormous speed, and I was astonished. And then I looked into your past and I saw." Dadu was very surprised because he didn't understand the reference. But if you see his life, he built and he continues to build. Started with the Tatas in Jamshedpur, continued with the Bengal State Electricity Board, continued with his consultancy work, continued with his numerous initiatives with Development Consultants International, Development Consultants Private Limited and Kuljan Corporation, where he encouraged Dr. Shadhan Dutt to build numerous projects across the world. Continued with Lakshmi's house and still continues in all the various activities and initiatives. Start and continue to nurture.
Like Saint Peter, he too was a rock, epitomizing fearlessness, an unshakable faith, and complete trust in the divine.
Words of Sri Aurobindo. Fear not, doubt not, grieve not, for in your apparent body is one who can create and destroy worlds with a breath.
Our heartiest tributes to Shri Pradyot Kumar Bhattacharya on his 120th birth anniversary. The Mother's Lion, Pradyot.